This is my 19.1 assignment. So, there are some safety considerations. The HSE is the Health and Safety Executive. So, this is an independent government funded organisation that inspects activity centres, national standards of good practice, and issue licences. They also provide guidance for educational trips and reporting accidents. So the AALA is the Adventure Activities Licensing Authority. This is responsible for the regulation of all health and safety hazards. So they provide risk assessment guidelines for outdoor adventurous activities and educational visits. National governing bodies support the AALA and give them advice for their activity. So hazards. A hazard is an avoidable issue that can cause damage or harm. A risk is the possibility of something bad happening and is characterised by the likelihood they'll happen. A risk assessment is made to reduce and prevent harm. It involves rating the severity of the hazard and control measures. So control measures are strategies put in place to control or manage the risks and reduce the likelihood of an accident. Risk assessment should be completed by a manager or instructors or responsible leader. There must be logged, signed, reviewed and updated regularly. So PPE is personal protective equipment, and it protects you from the prevailing conditions, weather conditions, and injuries related to participants in the activity. So you need life jackets if you're kayaking, for example. So precautions is a measure taken in advance to prevent something dangerous, unpleasant, or inconvenient from happening. Safety equipment. So these are items that help ensure safety. For instance, a basic first aid kit is necessary for all outdoor adventurous activities. A survival bag is also good to have. This is a large duty bag which will ensure survival by insulating the person. They need a torch, spare batteries for vision, and it can also be used as a distress signal. A whistle can be used as a distress signal. You need food for your journey and emergency rations, which would be energy-dense foods, and you obviously need a mobile phone. So someone should have your emergency contact details, and they must know where they're going and your anticipated timings and locations. So emergency procedures, these are put in place in case something goes wrong. They help you prevent an incident from getting worse. So one, you have to remain calm, then you get assistance ASAP, so you call 999 and ask for an ambulance if needed. Then you give them your details, so name, age of the casualty, and then describe their injuries. You give your exact location. So this is easy if you're orienteering, because you'll have a grid reference and map. You got the time and the nature of the accident. You need to talk about weather conditions, and you need to stay on the phone until emergency support arrives. If you don't have a phone, you're going to have to use your distress flare by doing 6 short blasts on a whistle, then a 1-minute silence, then repeat until helped. Visual signals would be smoke from a fire, or mirror or glass to reflect a signal if you see aircraft overhead. And you also should spread bright clothes on the floor to draw attention to yourself. The torch would be a distress signal by using the SOS code, which would be 3 short light flicks, 3 long ones, and then 3 short again. And then contingency plan. So these are the backup plans that should be put in place, as it's important to expect the unexpected and plan for any possibility in an outdoor adventurous activity. So a plan should be made for any activity that you lead. Right, so NNR is National Nature Reserves. These are areas that are designed to put wildlife first. This means that habitats and species are protected to provide outdoor laboratories for research. So NNRs can be visited by people and offer great opportunities to school specialist interest groups. so that they can experience wildlife at first hand and learn more about nature conservation. So Sherwood Forest is a national nature reserve. The CROW is the Countryside and Rights of Way Act, and it was established in 2000. It gives people more freedom to access land such as mountains and moors, and it also offers further protection to wildlife and nature features, and it helps enforce wildlife legislation. It also protects areas of outstanding natural beauty with legislation similar to national parks. So if you see a sign with a walker in brown and then that's on a white background, it means you're able to walk on the land due to the CROW Act. So the Countryside Agency, this was a government-funded advisory and professional body in England. It didn't own any land or didn't manage any facilities, but they worked with other bodies such as local authorities to provide grants and advice on conserving natural beauty of the landscape, promote rural economies and make the countryside more accessible for public enjoyment. It also helped create the Countryside Code, but in 2006 it was shut down and became part of Natural England. So the Countryside Code was made up to protect the environment and habitats that live there. So the code consists of rules such as close gates, don't litter, protect plants and animals, control dogs and consider other people. So there are also environmental considerations such as erosion. So this is the gradual destruction or reduction of something that is through continual wear and tear. The speed of this erosion is determined by the number of people that come into contact with it and the type of terrain and its resilience. So there's also pollution. So lots of outdoor adventurous activities contribute to pollution by rubbish, chemical product and air pollution. You've got motorised activities such as quad biking, which is a very bad pollutant. And there's also disturbance of human disturbance and flora and fauna disturbance. So wildlife is affected by all sorts of human activity, and this can be unintentional, for instance walking over plants and disturbing nests while climbing. So there are warning signs, they're put in place to support the flora and fauna. To reduce human disturbance, flowers shouldn't be picked, dogs should be kept on leads, etc. And facilities are often needed to store equipment and provide training and feedback. So the construction of facilities, these are things like Go Ape really, and they need to be sited with respect to the environment without disturbing plants and wildlife. And in addition, they often need access to water, electricity and drainage. So scenario 1, so you can read that. So a group of school students went on a trip to a climbing centre that was approved by the Countryside Agency. A risk assessment was written and all safety precautions were put in place, such as equipment checks. The students were given a detailed demonstration of techniques and they to try and how to climb. So the instructor then said to the students, me and your teacher will be back in 2 hours and show me what you've done. They were left unsupervised. Some students got bored and started picking flowers and walking off. So this has environmental considerations. So it was approved by the Countryside Agency, which is good. However, the Countryside Code was not abided by because they obviously started wandering off in areas that didn't have the little white sign. They picked flowers which disturbed the flora and fauna. They were just a little bit not very considerate. But there's also safety considerations. So strengths, there was a risk assessment which was done, which is necessary to prevent harm. Qualified instructors, there was a qualified instructor. And there were safety precautions put in place for the whole trip. However, the children were left unsupervised, so anything could have happened to them. in this time, and the instructor was the only one on the trip that was first aid trained. So if something happened to the children when they were unsupervised, the instructor didn't tell them where he was going, he just said we're going for a while, so the children would not have known what to do. Right, so this is the risk assessment that should have been done. So as a climber, you could fall from a height, or objects could fall on you, which would obviously harm the climber. So then, to stop this, correct spotting techniques need to be demonstrated to the children, and they need constant supervision, just in case, because the trained instructor is obviously going to be better at protecting them than the other children. And if there's a falling object, helmets should be worn just to protect the head and stop any damage occurring, and there should be briefing on this, and there should be constant supervision again. So the severity risk assessment is 3 for both of these. You times the severity by the probability of it happening, and it's a rated scale from 1 being the least and 3 being the most severe / probable. There aren't any suggested methods for improvement on these. So, skydiving. This is Laura, she's 17, she wants to skydive for charity, and she doesn't have her parents' permission, but she's still allowed to do it anyway. Because she's under 18, she needs parents' permission, otherwise it's illegal, which is one of the safety consideration weaknesses. So also, the equipment hasn't been changed in 5 years, and it's just quite old, and so are the emergency precautions. But she does receive sufficient training and she skydives. However, she actually lands on a National Nature Reserve bed of flowers, which is not the right area to land. So for the strengths, it's a countryside agency approved area, which means it's fine to do it there. However, there's lots of weaknesses, such as she lands in a National Nature Reserve on a bed of flowers, which is definitely the wrong place, and you're not allowed to do that, and it will ruin the flora and fauna, and there's lots of pollution via the plane. So also there's safety considerations, so it was good that she had correct training, but there are more weaknesses. So the old safety equipment wasn't checked before each jump, which could seriously be very dangerous. There's old emergency procedures that haven't been reviewed or updated in 5 years. They need to be reviewed and updated continuously to check that it's the most safe and reliable way possible, so that no harm is done to the participant in the activity. And it's actually illegal for Laura to skydive because she doesn't have her parents' permission. So, hazards. There's parachute failure, and skydivers could crash into each other in the air. So the skydivers are going to be harmed, and so might the instructor. So continual parachute... There must be continual parachute checks on the ground, so that before the descent, so that you know that the parachute works, and you can't use the old ones because they just need to be reliable. You need to ensure that nothing is going to go wrong in the flight, because it would be death if something went wrong. And there needs to be sufficient timing to stop the skydivers from crashing into each other, so they will need to be fully trained, and there'll be professional help, like so they can jump off with them if it's a tandem skydive. So severity risk, if parachute failure, it will end in death, so that needs to be scrapped. It has to be reliable. And crashing in the air, that might not be good. It's not as severe, but it will still cause harm. Right,